Welcome! This video was originally published as part of the weekly deep dive that is available to our Thrive community members. To learn more about this membership, please check out the link in the description. Hey everyone! So in this week's deep dive, I am going to talk about my personal approach to goal setting when I was on the Sinclair Method. I know a few of our members this past week were asking for that topic, and I got really excited to talk about it because I did have like a very specific approach that I used with the Sinclair Method and also still use in my life today. And it's very simple, but it's something that I think can put our journey of the Sinclair Method and changing our drinking habits into a much bigger context. One of our members was like, okay, I know I need to set, daily goals or just small goals regularly, but what else do I need to do? And I think that's such a good question, because if we just have these small goals that we're trying to achieve every single day, we can kind of get, lost in that if we're not really thinking about a bigger picture. So I wanted to start with just, the recognition that when I had alcohol use disorder, I was really living for my next drink. I was kind of existing day to day. I was either recovering from drinking or craving drinking. And then, around 11 a.m. every day, I would start looking forward to my evening wine ritual. And so I didn't really realize it at the time, but I was very much just caught up in the cycle of like living day to day, living for my next drink of alcohol. And so as I started to get that piece under control, I was, like many of you, left with like this free time of just like, okay, well, what do I do now? Because, for me, drinking was like a hobby of mine that, like, no matter what I was doing, I was pretty much drinking every single day. If I was, going out for a hike, I would bring alcohol. If I was meeting friends, there would be alcohol. If I was enjoying a nice day by the beach, I would bring alcohol. So it really revolved around everything. And I found that it was hard to, it was a little bit difficult to really, uncover what it is that I like to do when alcohol wasn't around. And so I wanted to quickly read this quote by Viktor Frankl. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, which I highly recommend that book. And then I'm going to talk about kind of the 3 steps I used for my meeting my goals and setting goals on the Sinclair Method. So the quote is, "What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for some goal worthy of him. What he needs is not the discharge of tension at any cost, but the call of a potential meaning waiting to be filled by him." And so, this quote kind of really hit me as I read that book. I read it when I was on the Sinclair Method because it talks about, essentially, we don't do well when we're in a tensionless state, meaning in those states where we're just kind of blah and existing and don't really have something we're looking forward to or something bigger than ourselves that we're striving for. And as I mentioned earlier, when I was drinking a lot before the Sinclair Method, I was kind of just living for that next drink. And so I kind of was in this tensionless state. I didn't have something I was really striving for, and honestly I was like really settling in life, which I'll talk more about in just a second, but I was just kind of settling so that I could basically function and put my drinking first. If I was hungover, okay, I could go to my job and still do my job. I wasn't really pushing myself beyond my limits, really just in order to allow my alcohol use disorder to continue to function. And so this quote really struck me because I think when we have alcohol use disorder, we can exist in this state where it's very tensionless. We're kind of just in this habit of drinking and living for our next drink, and I'm really speaking for myself with this, but where we really do best with human nature is when we're in this state of striving towards something bigger than ourselves, where we really feel like we have a sense of meaning and something that's bigger than who we are right now. And so that's why I'm going to talk about kind of my approach to tackling habit change and really changing my relationship with alcohol through the Sinclair Method. And setting regular small goals were definitely a part of that, but that was really in context of a couple of other things that I did. So the first thing that was really important for me was really the why, behind why it is that I wanted to change my drinking habits. And this is really, I would think about it as like my purpose or my mission in life, and something that I was really passionate about. And so there were a few different scenarios I had as I was on the Sinclair Method, but I'll just give one here. And so one of my big reasons why I wanted to change my drinking habits was because I wanted to have a career and a job that felt really meaningful to me, because there was a period in my life for a couple years where I had my own business, and it was like such a meaningful project that I just loved so much. But unfortunately that didn't work out. And that's actually when my drinking got pretty darn bad, because I feel like this purpose that I had in my life was kind of taken from me. And so ever since that time, I was always like really wanting to have a job or a career that felt really meaningful. I've never been someone who could just go to a job to collect a paycheck. Like that for me was like killing my soul in a sense. I just needed something to have, something that gave me day-to-day meaning and purpose, and that I felt like I could pour myself into. And so this was my personal kind of why. Like I said, I had a few different whys of why I was behind, or why I was on the Sinclair Method and changing my relationship with alcohol, but this was one of them. And I'm just going to use that for sake of simplicity today. Yours could very well be something different, but I think the first step toward really setting goals and working toward goals is developing our why. And we have a course video on that topic in the Essentials course that helps you kind of define your why, or your multiple whys behind why you want to change your drinking habits. And this why, like I said, it's a purpose, it's a calling, it's something bigger than yourself. So for me, it was like this concept of me having this career that I felt really, really good about and really passionate about, and not in a place where I was going to a job that I just was going to collect my paycheck, because that's what I did for a lot of my period of heavy drinking. Was I would get these jobs that I was overqualified for, but I would kind of settle there and just kind of fly under the radar, so to speak, because those were the jobs where I could show up hungover, or I could have drinks on my lunch break. I could do things that nobody would really notice. I wasn't really challenging myself in that way. So, but at the end of the day, that was like why I kept drinking every single night and was really unhappy, because I was just really unfulfilled in this really important area of my life. I hated the thought of, spending the rest of my life again just working for a paycheck and not doing something that was deeply, deeply meaningful to me. So that is step one, is really defining the why, the bigger purpose of your life and you and what it is that you want to do. And it can be different for everybody. It could be plugging into a nonprofit that you really care about, or spending more time with family or your grandkids, or, really getting serious about a hobby or a passion that you really love to do. And it's really about checking in with yourself and asking yourself, what is it that I really deep down love, or what is it that really lights me up in life? So that's step one, is really getting this purpose defined of like, why do you want to change your relationship with alcohol? Like, what's the big reason for you? What is the why? So the next step for me was really the what, meaning what am I going to do to achieve that ultimate why? My why again was, having a job that I was really passionate about. And so my what was, what do I need to do in order to get there? And in this case, just going to use, one example of, I knew one of my what's was that I needed to change my drinking habits. I truly needed to change my relationship with alcohol and no longer be someone who drank a bottle of wine every night and was hungover nearly every day at work, and didn't really want to speak up at meetings or apply for job promotions because I was too intimidated and my confidence was so low because of my drinking. And so this what was really what I defined for myself was like, I need to change my relationship with alcohol. And what I did with that was I really defined what that meant for me. And so we have exercises in our video courses as well that help you to map out like your ideal relationship with alcohol. And I think this is so important to do because that for me just really clarified what my day in the life looks like when I have my ideal relationship with alcohol. And I would really work to embody myself into that and really feel it viscerally so that I could make it feel very real in the moment. Even though I wasn't there yet, I could imagine what it would feel like to be there. And so I would do exercises like mapping out my ideal relationship with alcohol, which for me, I remember back then it was like, someone who drank a couple of nights a week. I never had a hangover again. I always felt control. I had mostly alcohol-free days. And then, on top of that, I was kind of mapping out my ideal day in the life, which didn't include alcohol. It included, me going to the gym in the morning and then working all day on a job that I really loved or was passionate about. It involves, spending time with friends, eating good food, all of these things that I really appreciated in life that oftentimes I sacrificed for alcohol. And then I would also, I'm someone who I love to create vision boards, and I think that those are so fun to do because for me, I would just go online and find a bunch of pictures and I would create it in like a online document, but you can use magazines and things like that. But it helps to put pictures into, our conscious awareness of what we want our life to look like. You can put pictures and phrases and things like that. And so for me, I was always mapping out these vision boards of like what my life looked like when I had my ideal relationship with alcohol and when I was really living out my why, meaning, living that career path that I really, really loved and was passionate about. And so that is the what part. The what really is, what is it do we need to do in order to get to our why? Again, my why was I wanted to have this career path that felt really fulfilling, and my what was like, how do I do that? And I knew that in order to be able to do that, I needed to not have this thorn in my side of alcohol use disorder anymore. And so with having my what defined, it really helped me then to get specific into the next phase, which is the how. And this is where the small daily or weekly goals come in, where you are setting these goals that will really get you to your what and ultimately your why. And so again, my what was changing my relationship with alcohol and really mapping out what that ideal relationship with alcohol looked like. And even though I was nowhere near there in the moment, what that did was it gave me the ability to start to map out the how of how I was going to get there. And so, for example, I remember when I started this, I was still drinking like 5 days a week. I was getting 2 alcohol-free days, but I was still kind of drinking more than I wanted when I drank, and drinking out of habit a lot still. And so I knew that, okay, in order to get to my ideal day in the life, I'm someone who doesn't drink 5 days a week. I drink maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and I drink maybe a couple of drinks and no more than that. And so it would help me to map out my how of how I was going to do those things week over week and day over day. And I'm really big, of course, on starting small. And so I would start by just trying to set, a drink reduction goal of having 1 less drink that week. It didn't matter what day or, anything like that. It was just like, okay, I'm gonna have 1 less drink. Last week I had 13 drinks. This week I'm gonna have 12 drinks, kind of thing. And each week I was just diligent about setting those goals and going after them. And sometime I would have to hang around at that place for a while, if drinking 1 less drink, from 12 to 13, or from 13 to 12, if I was stuck at 12 for a while, that was okay with me. I would just stick there until I felt like I was ready to jump into the next milestone. I remember there was a period of time for me where I was drinking, I think it was like 3 or 4 days a week. And I was kind of stuck in that place for like a couple of months where I couldn't seem to get more than like 4 alcohol-free days in a week, which is pretty darn good. I mean, I was pretty happy with that, but I knew I wanted to do more. But I was kind of stuck in that place for a while just because I really felt like I needed to have, multiple extinction sessions at that state or at that place so that I could start to cultivate new hobbies and things outside of that. And so in addition to the how, again, the how is really the small goals that we're setting day over day and week over week. We certainly want to do them with drink reduction, but we also want to do them with our lifestyle as well. When I was drinking a lot, I was exercising still, but it was really just to kind of overcompensate for the alcohol and, try to burn off the alcohol calories essentially. And I wasn't exercising nearly as much because I was often hungover. And so, part of my how also was some weeks I would just have goals around, okay, I'm going to go on a walk 3 nights this week for at least 30 minutes. Like I didn't even think about drink reduction that week, but I would just narrow in my focus on a specific goal that week with regards to my health or things like that. And so that is kind of how, I approached changing my goals on the Sinclair Method. The small, tiny goals were really the strategies and the day-to-day things I was doing that were really allowing me to get to my what, which was ultimately changing my relationship with alcohol. And at that what, I was mapping out what my ideal relationship with alcohol looked like, what my ideal day in the life looked like, and really getting a clear vision of this future that I really wanted for myself. And we also have a course video on creating a vision for your future self, so check that out if you haven't seen it. And then again, the why was that higher purpose or calling. And again, for me, that was like I wanted to have this career path that felt truly fulfilling and meaningful to me. So I hope that this helps you to get clarity on the next steps that you can take with goal setting. I think this can honestly be a really fun exercise, and it shouldn't be viewed as work, I don't think, because it can be so fun to use our imagination and really dream. For me, I would just like think back to my childhood or like, my early 20s of like, what were my like dreams that I really had for myself before my problem drinking set in, or when in my life was like super fulfilled and super happy, and what was I doing at that point in my life? And then I would kind of work backwards and like think, okay, how could I get to that place? How could I get to that place like from where I'm at today? And so I encourage you, if you're going to be applying this and trying it out for setting your goals, definitely get clear on your why, the big vision and the purpose behind why it is you want to change your drinking habits. You have one. If you're here today, you have one, but maybe it's not super crystal clear in your mind. It's really important that we get super crystal clear on that, and even writing it out and making it something that you put on your wall and you're like revisiting once or twice a day, just to constantly remind yourself of why you're doing this. And then again, the what are the goals that you're going to set for yourself to get there? Again, mine was changing my relationship with alcohol. And then I got super specific on what that looked like, so that the goal was crystal clear about what that relationship to alcohol looked like for me. And again, also writing this out, making it super clear, can be really helpful. And then the how is the smaller goals that you're going to set for yourself every single week to really achieve those things that are, beyond the small goals, that are really, the small goals are going to add up to that. And again, just to close with, just a reminder that when we're stuck in alcohol use disorder, it was true for me, where I was really, we really become dependent upon alcohol. It's called a crutch for a reason, where we are just living for our next drink, and it's kind of hard to see beyond that. And in my opinion, alcohol really weakens us and weakens our ability to dream and have passions and true joys in life. I think we can have them in a way that feels fleeting, but for me, I felt like truly that overuse of alcohol kind of robbed me of my joy and my ability to really experience passions and joys and fulfillments in life. And so if you feel like that's where you are now, just realizing that that is an effect of what alcohol does. It's a symptom. And so, you can choose, to recognize that and realize that, okay, this might be where I'm at now, but I don't have to stay stuck here, and recognize that it's an effect of what the alcohol does. And so for you to kind of push beyond that and start having these visions and dreams and getting really excited about what the future holds for you, that is really what's going to propel us forward, especially if we're super clear again on the bigger picture of the why and the what. So I hope this was really helpful for you guys, and hope you have a great weekend. I'll talk to you again soon.